My name is Andrew Maguire. I'm the CEO and co-founder of InternMatch. And InternMatch helps college students find incredible internships all across the US. And we help employers to showcase their internship programs in a more compelling way through rich content like video, photos, social media, so on and so forth. Early on, it's really important to have high-touch advisors. So one of the mistakes that I think entrepreneurs make is they say, okay, who can I put on my deck or a sheet of paper or reference and say, these guys are my advisors that are going to make me look really good. And our approach was always, that's the wrong way to do it. Because a great advisor, especially early on when you need a ton of help, is really willing to get their hands dirty. And they're going to get passionate about what you're doing, and they're going to contribute a lot of time to making sure that you're able to execute and achieve the goals that you want to achieve. So early on, it was much more about who knows more than we do that can really help us out, even just with the basics. Yeah, so I think, I guess the first advisor is a little tricky. I think you need to be really hands-on with your networking. You need to go to events. You need to figure out who is knowledgeable and passionate about the space you're in. So that's the first thing. If you can get introductions to those people, great. If not, figure out where they hang out and go there, and be persistent but still polite in trying to sort of get their attention and build a relationship. One of the things that we've found is that I think a lot of people that have great advice to give are used to giving advice and not knowing if it gets implemented or not, and not seeing that it works. So one of the things that we used to do, for example, in Seattle, is we went to a entrepreneur get-together every week called Hops and Chops that was run by a guy named Dave Chappelle. And every week I would try to go and get 5 minutes of Dave's time and just ask him questions. And he worked on a business that had a lot of commonalities with mine, so he had phenomenal advice. And then every week I would come back and I would say, hey Dave, we used your advice and it was really effective. We implemented it, and here's what we learned, and here's kind of the next challenge. And that's important for a few reasons. One, it demonstrates to the person that you want to advise you that you're listening to them. And two, they know that their advice is working, so they feel good about the contribution they've made. And I think that's a really important initial step. And then ultimately, your advisors will introduce you into new advisors as new challenges and opportunities come along. Yeah, so you need to feel out what the other person wants out of the relationship as well, right? So a guy like Dave McClure, who's an investor but also advises us, he's got hundreds of portfolio companies. So it would be unrealistic for me to try to push him into giving me a ton of time. However, if I know that I'm raising money and I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to structure my round, I know that Dave has seen a ton of deals, and that if I can hear his feedback in 2 or 3 minutes, that's going to be tremendously valuable. Someone like Danielle Marill, who's another one of our advisors, she sat down with us every few weeks for 3 or 4 hours and really went deep on tracking our metrics, on figuring out how we could create a press arc over the course of the next 4 or 5 months. So much more tactical and time-intensive work. And I would say that both strategies can be really valuable. You just want to make sure that you're not trying to push someone who doesn't have a lot of time into spending more and more time with you. That's not the way to build the relationship. The way is to figure out what are they comfortable with, and then how to get the most out of that. We always start off with an informal relationship. So if an advisor says at the gate, I will help you, but I want X% of your company or X amount of equity, that's a huge red flag for us, because it basically says they're not in this for the right reasons, they're not passionate about the company. So we sort of start off informally saying like, hey, would you like to be an informal advisor? There's no obligation to the time that you're gonna commit to working with us, but we'd love to be able to ping you with questions from time to time. And then once you get to the point where you realize, look, this has tremendous long-term value for us, working with you and keeping the relationship going, then you can say, okay, here's some stock in a 4-year vesting cycle. An advisor will get really passionate about your business, and they want to hear what's going well, and they want to have updates. So it's not, the relationship shouldn't be oriented around just going to someone when you need something from them. It should be, hey, just wanted to let you know that we implemented the feedback that you gave us even several weeks ago, and we're seeing these results, and then maybe the next week it's working even better, and check it out. Or here are just milestones that we're hitting and things that are going on. So I think keeping constant communication is really important, and you build really meaningful relationships that way. Otherwise, if you're just coming out of the blue every few months and saying, hey, I have a problem, can you help me fix it? They don't have the context, so they need to get totally caught up on everything that's going on. And it feels a little bit more like you're just asking them to do your work for you. Most of the advisors that we had in the very beginning are no longer very active. And part of that is a result of us changing our location. So we used to be in Seattle, now we're in the Bay Area. But part of it's just that as you grow as a business, your needs change. So I think you can have some advisors that can stay with you for years. You have others that could be massively helpful for a month and then no longer really all of that relevant. And I think it's really important to think about that also when you're structuring a formal agreement with advisors too. So super important to vest equity over time so that if the relationship is no longer active, that you can sort of say, look, it was great, and you've gotten some equity for the time that you worked with us closely, but we're kind of moving past that point now. And so it doesn't make sense to continue giving equity to someone who is not going to help you over the long term. One thing that I would say is I think entrepreneurs often don't dedicate a lot of time to this process. So people think a lot about recruiting full-time hires. People spend a lot of time dedicated to raising money, obviously. And especially if you're in a strong startup ecosystem like the Bay Area or Seattle or New York or LA or Boston, the opportunity is tremendous. I mean, there's so much knowledge and experience around you, and there are people that have solved the same problems that you're trying to solve. So it makes a lot of sense to go and find those people and get them excited. And I think, even early on, it should be, I would say 20% of your time should be put into these relationships, because it can save you 6 months of banging your head against the wall with the wrong approach, right? That someone else has tried before and they know why it's not going to work.